Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fandomology, where fandoms collide. And we are back with another movie review. I feel like it's been a while since we've done one of these. In fact, I think the last one we did was, I want to say, the Austin Powers movies, but we're back with another one. And we are talking about Zootopia tonight. So, as I've said, this is one that I have never seen before, but I watched it the other day, actually with my girlfriend. I was over at her house and we decided to turn the movie on. And yeah, overall, as far as time spent with my girlfriend, I definitely enjoyed it. But we're going to talk about the movie itself. And by the way, if you're wondering, number one, yes, this is going to be an open panel. So if you have seen the movie and would like to talk about it with me, the StreamYard link is in the chat, and I'm going to go ahead and make it the pinned comments in YouTube here. And the other thing, too, is in case you're wondering, yes, I did put the invite out to my girlfriend if she wanted to join. Unfortunately, she does not currently have the ability or the setup to join, so maybe she'll do it in the future. She said that she's certainly interested. I'm sure she'll possibly correct me on that later. She just doesn't know how. So expect that coming down the road. But for now, we're going to talk about Zootopia. And side note also, I did put out an invite to my buddy Tyler, who you guys have seen before. He was the guy who talked all the Harry Potter stuff and all the Disney World stuff with me. So hopefully he shows up. But if not, we're going to go ahead and keep going. So why did it take me so long to talk about it, but certainly watch this movie? Well, honestly, this was around the time that, at least personally, I was kind of starting to somewhat lose interest with Disney. Now, I'm still at least marginally interested in Disney and what's going on with that, at least from a morbid curiosity standpoint, as I'm sure everyone else is. But I had heard other people on, mostly Facebook and all that talk about this movie. And I didn't know quite what to think at the time of the fact that they were touching on something very topical, like racial profiling or the whole thing surrounding police officers, because this came out in 2016 when, all the, we'll say, peaceful protests, to use the news media's terminology, when all that stuff was really starting to happen. And I felt at the time that this was just going to be a bit too political of a movie for me to touch. And so I just really didn't want anything to do with it. Fast forward to now, and we see that Disney has pretty much dove headlong into the culture war. And, going back and watching this movie with the context of what Disney's into now, it honestly is like politically, it's like one of the most tame things that I've seen of Disney. I mean, it still tackles the topic. It's just not even close to being as in your face as I thought it would be. And the story itself, for the most part, I actually found myself really liking it. Like, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, as far as a score out of 10, I am going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I think it is a very good movie. However, I'll tell you why when we get to the ending. I don't give it a full 10 out of 10. So as always, I'll walk you guys through the plot, and we will talk about, what's going on. So the main character is... Sorry, had to check a message from my girlfriend. So the main character is a little rabbit named Judy Hopps. And it is her lifelong dream to move to Zootopia and become a police officer, because she's not fulfilled in her life living with her carrot farming family. And her parents are very, very anxious about her wanting to go and pursue this career. And it's weird, they're trying to simultaneously be supportive, but also kind of try to talk her out of it. And I'm sure if, growing up with your parents, if you wanted to do something, or if you've been a parent, you know what it's like when you want to support your kids and you want them to succeed, but it's also like you probably don't think this is a good idea right now. So you kind of talk to them like that. Hold on one second. Tyler just messaged me. So while that's going on, he sees a fox. Let me see if I can remember his name here. He sees a fox by the name of Gideon Gray bullying some other kids. And of course, her sense of justice kicks in and she decides that she wants to try and help. But of course, she gets teased by Gideon Gray. I think there's other people that were with him being bullies. But she gets teased because there's never been a bunny police officer. And they get into a little bit of a scuffle that ends with Gideon Gray pouncing onto Judy and scratching her in her face, saying, "You're never going to be a successful police officer. You're basically weak and worthless," and, all the stereotypical bullying type stuff. Well, fast forward several years. Thank you, Virginia, who says Travis the Weasel is his cohorts. Okay. Yeah, you probably might have to fact check me on some of this stuff. I should have watched the movie again, honestly, in preparation for tonight, but I ran out of time between the gym and I just finished restringing one of my guitars. But anyways, fast forward several years, Judy is now an adult and she enrolls herself in police academy. And it's made very clear that her instructor, who is a polar bear, does not believe that she will succeed at all. In fact, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of my time in the Navy. And I'm sure if Michael was watching, he'd agree also, given his Army basic training. But they made a big deal in the Navy of saying that you make a mistake, you're dead, because attention to detail, and if you neglect the little things... Blazerhawk Darren saying Paul trying to rock a fro. Not intentionally. This is my just got out of the shower and it's kind of halfway dry kind of hair. And my co-host for the night has just now arrived. So say hello, everyone, to Tyler's Terrific Disney Adventures. What's up, man?
Not much. A long day at school.
Yes, and you can imagine what I had to do today.
Oh, dear.
Closer.
Ew.
Mm-hmm.
No, closing on Saturday was weird, so to speak, because of the wedding and what happened.
Yeah, I got a lowdown from that from Virginia, who, by the way, says hello in the chat.
Oh, hi, Virginia.
And Phil says, for the sake of all that's holy, get a haircut. No, Phil, I'm not going to. You can't tell me what to do. Haircut. I just need a trim. That's all it is. But you didn't miss much. I was just talking about a little bit of why I'm only just now watching this movie, which I'll refresh since you were just here. I was only just now watching this movie because I watched it the other day with Virginia, but I avoided it for so long because I saw it as like the first step in Disney taking a more political, topical stance with their movies compared to what they had done before. And that kind of, in the midst of when it came out in 2016, with all the peaceful protests that were going on, it just made me not want to touch the movie. And then, of course, fast forward to now, And I found out actually it's not even it. The message isn't even as in my face as I was expecting it. So, what's your take on that?
It's definitely a powering movie. It depends on how you look at it. Because at one point, I mean, towards the end, it shows mm, like it's a, I don't know what the right words are, but like how uh the secretary, she ends up being the villain, and that's showing like a negative side to women, which could be like a very controversial topic right now in society.
Yeah,
But
but
also with Judy Hopps being the like heroine, like the female word for hero,
of course,
it it sort of contradicts itself in that part.
yeah. But like I said, it was not. The message is there. It just was not as forceful as I was expecting it to be. And of course, like I already said, spending time with my girlfriend is always fun. So I was going through the very beginning of the movie where Judy, as a kid, makes it known that she wants to become a police officer. Her parents are simultaneously being supportive, but also trying to talk her out of it. And then she has the interaction with Gideon Gray, where he scratches her in the face, basically saying, "You're too weak to be a police officer," right? And that
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good beginning setup, right?
Yeah, it definitely gets the basis down for her character and the struggles that she's going to go through with
Mm-hmm.
being not only a bunny but also an herbivore,
A
so to
prey,
speak, prey, not
yeah.
predator.
So fast forward that into her time training, and it's made very clear that her instructor, who's a polar bear, does not believe she's going to succeed. And again, oh my God. Hello to Fat Steven, who says, "Oh, Paul looks so curly." Like I said, this is my just got out of the shower hair. Virginia says, "I think they had the protagonist and the antagonist both be female to eliminate the idea of a male versus female power struggle and to create essentially an even playing field." I could see that.
Yeah, most definitely. That's what I was trying to put into words, but I couldn't think of it.
Makes
Thank you,
sense.
Virginia.
So, despite everyone not believing in her I almost said Virginia as if she was a character of the movie. I'm sorry. But no, Judy manages to actually use her status as a bunny actually as strength. Like all the different obstacle courses that she's put through for the different biomes, the rainforest, the desert, the tundra, and I guess temperate climate, we'll say, she's able to, like, say for example, the ice wall. At first she couldn't climb up it, but then she used the back of basically one of her classmates to hop over it, and she was able to pass it that way. And yes, I know it looks like furry slinkies. If I had a comb on me right now, I'd use it, but it's in the next room. So she ends up graduating top of her class, and this is where we meet the mayor and the assistant mayor, who, spoiler alert, ends up being the bad guy. So let's go ahead and get into that. As far as the assistant mayor, what was her name again? Mayor Bellwether. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Mayor Bell. As far as her ended up being the twist villain, that is honestly why I don't give this movie a full 10 out of 10, because I feel like they were doing this to try and capitalize on the twist villain they did with Hans in Frozen, and they didn't do it as good. Like it just came a little bit too out of nowhere, and her villain arc was a bit too rushed.
Yeah,
If you understand.
they didn't really build to that. They really didn't give any preludes to her backstory, which would have made it a whole lot better
Yeah,
for being the villain. But all
yeah.
of a sudden, at the end, wham bam, she's the villain. It's like, huh? Y'all didn't give us any sort of like indication that she might have. But that's also kind of like the cool thing because it took her. It took until the end of the movie to really figure it out. So it sort of kept you on the edge of your seat. Who's the villain? Because obviously, not obviously, but it sort of didn't seem like the lion, the actual mayor, he was gonna be the villain.
Yeah, it did. It just. So I'll be honest. I already knew what the twist was going to be because I was just randomly scrolling through Facebook clips one day and had pretty much the ending spoiled for me. So I knew, but even still, just seeing how they executed it, I think they could have done far better. And real quick, Virginia says, when going through firefighting training, the females in my class were told blatantly the way we were being trained was designed for a male world. We as females had to figure out how to make the tasks work for our bodies and abilities, kind of like Judy Hopps had to through the academy. And yeah, they show that very well in the movie, and I 100% believe that that's what they had that's what you would have had to go through in firefighting training. In fact, going on my own experience, when I was in the corrections career and the brief amount of time that I was in Jail Basic Academy, I do remember having to go through some of the physical challenges like crap, I can't remember the exact name for it, but it's like there was a special name for like the obstacle course that we had to do, and it was different things we had to do. Like we had to climb over and vault over like a 4-foot wall. We had to climb under some low we had to crawl under some low sitting ropes and other things like that. And I do remember, especially with that 4-foot wall, which I had no problem getting over because I'm 5'11", and I had, at least at that time, decent upper body strength. I wasn't going to the gym yet. But I do remember some of the ladies, especially the shorter ones, struggled to get up that wall, but they did eventually do it because they had to figure out a way to make it work for them. So I completely get it. So back to the story. And real quick, hello in the chat to Damian Alexander. Thanks for joining. So after her graduation, Judy says goodbye to her family. And again, her family is proud of her, but also very, very scared for her, to the point that her dad convinces her to take a small little can of fox repellent with her. And then, of course, we get a montage of us actually seeing the city of Zootopia and the different regions, the different biomes, and it's all really cool stuff. And then she checks into her apartment, and it is literally just a hole in the wall. That's how big it is. And I like the interaction that she has with her neighbors, where they're like, just to let you know, we're loud and annoying, and we don't apologize for that. And then literally through the wall, it's like, shut up! No, you shut up! And she takes all of this as like a good thing. It's like, okay, terrible apartment, loud neighbors. I finally made it to the big city. And then she goes to work for the first time. And I just want to say, as a side note, Damien says, loved the Breaking Bad reference in the movie. I'll be honest with you, I did not see Breaking Bad, so I didn't catch that. But if you want to explain that for me, maybe I'll get it then. So...
But also, I really like the whole like getting to Zootopia and seeing how like one side was the desert, but on the opposite side was the tundra, but they're using basically the same engineering to create the heat, versus creating the snow and ice and the
Mm-hmm.
cold. And that's sort of like going to the parks. They're going to use the same buildings, but like one side might be Adventureland theme, the other side is Frontierland theme,
Mm-hmm.
but they're like basically sharing the same kitchens, same work area, but creating totally opposite food items to fit that theme.
Right. Which, by the way, if y'all are wondering what I'm eating, I've just got some M&Ms. And if I'm not mistaken, and of course, you and I have talked about this at work, how they're allegedly going to add Zootopia to Animal Kingdom, correct?
Yep. So the rumors right now, nothing. It's all what it right now. It's what Disney considers blue sky projects. Nothing's been confirmed. Nothing. No actual details have came out. They have
Okay.
released concept art for a Zootopia, but they're going to retheme It's Tough to Be a Bug to a Zootopia type show.
Okay. Which just on that real quick, I think that's kind of a shame because it's a great show, but at the same time, I can understand why they're doing that because A Bug's Life, all things considered, is really not talked about that much anymore as far as the classic Pixar movies, which is a shame because it's a great movie. Damien, by the way, says one of the scientists making the blue serum says they're waiting on Walt and Jesse to return. Okay, understandable. So Judy shows up to work for the first time, and I just got to get this out of the way. Please do not take this the wrong way, Tyler. You are Clawhauser, and Clawhauser is you. like just you at tickets at work. That is literally how Clawhauser acts, is it not?
Yeah.
So that little bit aside, it's here that Judy shows up for work, and she is literally the smallest person in the room. We've got wolves, rhinos, elephants as the police officers. A water buffalo is the chief, and he's handing out, of course, after an elephant in the room joke, which was pretty funny. He's handing out the assignments to everyone. And what assignment does he give Judy? Parking duty. And of course, Judy decides, okay, you know what? This ain't the job that I wanted, but I'm going to make the most of it. And she makes a challenge for herself to write 200 parking tickets by noon, which she does by literally sniping at cars the second that their meter expires, which from the limited experience that I have in the law enforcement stuff from my time in the Navy, like, yeah, you need to enforce the rules, but at the same time, not to that degree, because then people's just going to call you a jerk, which is what happens in the movie.
A Disney thing. Disney isn't even that strict at the parks. Like, if you're like 5 minutes behind your like lightning lane, they're not going to get after you. They understand parades happen. You get stuck on a ride or something like that. They're going to give you a new time or possibly just let you in the lightning lane at that point.
Right. So yeah, basically she is being over enthusiastic about her job, and thus the people around her start teasing her, calling her, "You stupid meter maid," stuff like that. And kind of on a break from doing all of this, she comes across this fox named Nick Wilde, who is escorting at least what looks like a younger fox wearing an elephant costume into a elephant's ice cream parlor, we'll say. And Nick is playing up this huge sob story about how his little boy wants to be an elephant so badly. And of course, he's got the truck that actually makes the toot sound, which is just adorable. And basically, Nick is doing his absolute best to guilt trip the elephant into giving him a giant elephant popsicle. And Judy notices this and decides, you know what? I'm going to help these guys out because I think this father and his son are adorable. And so Judy basically strong arms them literally with the law, saying, hey, you know you can't be scooping ice cream with your trunk without a glove. That's not exactly hygienic. And so basically Judy convinces them to give them the ice cream. She even pays for it because Nick forgets his wallet. And it's a nice little wholesome interaction, only for Judy to then follow them and notice that some things are kind of weird. For example, the little kid's able to drive, and they're melting down the popsicles and taking the liquid and putting it into smaller molds and making smaller popsicles to then go and resell it to a bunch of lemmings, which I remember Virginia especially laughed at the lemmings for how stupid they are. So basically, Judy figures out that Nick and the little kid, which isn't even a kid, that's a grown guy.
I think it's like a fennec fox or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what his name is. Oh, Finnick, that's what it is. Where Nick and Finnick are basically reselling the smaller popsicles. I'm going to guess at a slightly more marked up cost from what they get it from. And they're basically, ripping people off. And Judy is like, hey, you cheated me, and I'm going to take you down for this. But Nick is able to counteract her every point, saying, oh no, I'm doing this completely legitimately, and you can't do anything about it. And so while all of this is going on, in her first briefing, the chief made it very clear that there were 14 animals that had gone missing. Virginia says, love me some lemmings. Yes. So 14 animals had gone missing, and Judy was starting to feel like her talents are getting wasted as a simple meter maid. This isn't what she wanted to do. And so she goes to her chief trying to be like, hey, listen, chief, let me help with the missing animals case. This is what I've wanted to do. But the chief's like, no, we only just took you in as like part of an initiative act or something like that, as put together by Assistant Mayor Bellwether. We really didn't want you, and so we're basically shoving you into meter maid because we really don't want to give you any of the real police work. Only for them to get interrupted by the wife of one of the missing animals, an otter, I believe. And she wants to she's trying to hound the chief. It's like, chief, saying, why aren't you doing anything? And of course, the chief's trying to give the polite but firm, listen, ma'am, we're doing everything we can. Please leave my office kind of talk. But Judy jumps at this and is like, don't worry, I will help you find your husband. And of course, while the wife is thankful, the chief's like, you little, I'm going to kill you. But they make a wager that in 48 hours, if Judy cannot crack the case, she must resign. So Judy accepts.
Oh.
What?
So the reason she's back at the police station, trying and runs into Mrs. Otterton is because she catches that weasel that stole those.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Roots, those onions or whatever they called them at the beginning. And little rodentia. And it's a key factor that she saves this little rodent.
A shrew, I believe.
Yeah. Which plays an important role later.
It does. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. She basically, in the middle of her doing her meter maid stuff, intercepts a chase by other officers, and she decides to involve herself, which lends her through Little Rodentia. She takes a giant, at least giant to the tiny rodent size, donut and traps the weasel guy with him, and that's what lands her in the office. And so, after that, she decides to hunt down Nick for help. And Nick, of course, thinks that she's way in over her head, and basically she strong arms Nick into helping her with a little pen recorder thing. Yes, the weasel guy's name is Duke Weaselton. You're gonna like I said, Virginia, I'm gonna be blanking out on names and such between you and between you and Tyler. Yeah, you guys are gonna be probably reminding me of things. I should have watched this movie again. But anyways, she strong arms Nick into helping her by basically getting him to admit that he is ripping people off and he was committing tax fraud, basically. And so Nick begrudgingly agrees to help her by first taking her to
Mystic Springs Oasis.
Yes, where the naturalists live. And this is basically a conclave of animals that don't believe in wearing any clothes. And they've come to find out that Mr. Otterton was a regular for one of the elephants' yoga sessions. And from there, they go to the DMV to find out the car that he had got into. And this is where we meet Flash. You're impersonating Flash, aren't you?
Yes. I am.
Yes. So that leads to all the jokes that you can think of. Because again, it's the DMV.
Am impersonating Flash.
Okay. Hold on, where is it? So anyways, all the jokes that you can imagine get played out because it's a DMV run by sloths. And so it's literally them reading out the plate number to him, and he is typing one keystroke probably every 10 seconds, it feels like, reading it out loud, like A, B, C. I was probably doing it too fast. And the whole time Judy is like getting super exasperated and saying something like,
"Let's go while we're young."
I hadn't used that clip in a while, so I wanted to. And of course, Nick decides to disrupt the whole thing by telling him a funny joke, which that's where the ha, ha, ha clip comes from that everyone has memed to absolute death.
Oh. Hey. Virginia. Is this slow enough?
Okay. So that leads them to a limo service where they find the limo out in Tundra Town, and they investigate the limo, and they find claw marks in the back of the limo where someone had clearly been in a scuffle, only for Nick to realize whose limo it actually is. And basically, it turns out that it is just a shrew mob boss named Mr. Big. And basically they're ripping off The Godfather here. So it's the whole spiel of you come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding. That thing. And it's literally a shrew where his mobsters are polar bears. And of course, every time a polar bear walks in, Judy's like, is that Mr. Big? And Nick's like, no. And they get they do get some information out of Mr. Big. Virginia said perfect.
Thank you,
Okay. So
Virginia.
All right, youngster, out you go.
Don't come back! Ever!
remember, I have all the power on the stream. I can kick people out when I please.
Rude.
You started it. All right, so back to the movie. This leads them to a black Jaguar character who was the limo driver. And he talks about how seemingly this otter just went completely feral on him. And he, of course, scratched up the back seat area and got into the cab and, scratched his face all up. And Judy's like, okay, just open the door and let us get some more info. But while the door is closed, the Jaguar guy starts going crazy. And by the time they get the door open, he's gone feral. And so that starts a chase that ends with him getting caught. But also, by the time the police show up, Jaguar guy, despite being chained up to a bridge pole, he gets caught. He's gone. And the police chief doesn't believe a word of course, of what Judy says. And he nearly convinces Judy to resign until Nick says, you know what? No, you said you'd give her 48 hours. That 48 hours hasn't expired yet. Keep your word. And so begrudgingly, that's what the chief does. And so through some more backstory, we figure out a little bit more about Nick and why he is the way he is. Because at one point he tried to join, I guess you could say, like the Zootopia version of the Cub Scouts that was primarily had prey animals in it. And he was going to join, and he was, going to be welcome into the pack, but his pack mates turned on him saying, we don't want you in here. You're a fox. You're untrustworthy. And the only way we can trust you is if we bully you and, of course, put a muzzle on you. And that pretty much traumatized Nick into believing, okay, if all people see in a fox is someone that is sneaky and untrustworthy, that's pretty much how I'm going to be. So what did you think about that?
That definitely shows a significant thing in the real world, where if people get bullied into something so much, they're gonna just accept it and they're gonna take on whatever they've been bullied for.
That is true. I mean, Judy was kind of the exception to that because she got bullied for being a weak little bunny by Gideon Gray, but she rose against that, whereas Nick, had a different reaction to his bullying where he gave into it.
And that's something just like in the real world. Bullying can either change you or it can keep you on the same path or whatever they're bullying you for, and you end up going down that pathway.
Mm-hmm. There is a saying that says that you meet your destiny on the path you take to avoid it, or however that says. I'm paraphrasing, but that saying exists for a reason. And Nick is kind of an example of that in this movie. So with that, they decide to run forensics, and of course, since Judy's out of the system, they've got to go to Assistant Mayor Bellwether, and we get a little bit of insight into why she eventually turns evil, because Mayor Lionheart doesn't treat her the best. Basically treats her like little more than a handmaiden. And again, it's definitely something. It's enough to say that she didn't turn evil for no reason. But again, I would have liked to seen a little bit more hints, or actually no, not even hints that if she was going to be the twist. Maybe it's just that the turn happens a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, okay, so let's directly compare her to Hans. Hans turns evil at about the same time, and yet his turn works better, because can't you just completely buy this prince that seems to be perfect for Anna as secretly just a sleaze bag?
Yeah, and he just worms his way right into the whole, I guess, kingdom situation. And he's like, I am in love with you. I'm going to take and this girl that's been in a castle all by herself because her sister won't talk to her. And I'm going to tell her that I'm in love with her, even though I've only met her for like 5 minutes.
Only to then, of course, reveal, hey, don't you know that you can't marry someone that you just met, just like your sister says? And yeah, it works because that setup was there. You can't marry a man you just met. There really wasn't as much of that with Assistant Mayor Bellwether.
Yeah. And I guess they did try to work it a little where obviously like predators are always seen as the bad guy. So you wouldn't expect the prey to be the bad guy.
Right. But anyways, this all leads them to a secret facility out on the outskirts of town. And yes, by the way, this is where the scenes of the howl happens, which I got to show y'all something real quick. This is like the best thing that has come from this movie. So this is like a 5-minute video. I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'm just going to show a little bit to get the point across. But y'all got to see this. So, like the video says here, it began with a man showing his German Shepherd the howl scene from Zootopia. Watch what happens. That's just the most perfect thing ever. But here's the thing, it goes deeper. And so basically this it's called Howlception. It's basically just a chain of people making videos of their dogs reacting to the videos, and so on and so on and so on. And I brought that, and I remember bringing that up to Virginia. So Virginia, if you're still watching, that's what I was talking about. So they break into this secret lab, and they find all of the missing animals, including Mr. Otterton and, of course, Jaguar Guy. And they find that all of them are acting completely feral, but they don't have any explanation for why. All of a sudden, they hear the mayor in there, and he's talking about why these animals are acting the way that they are, in a way that kind of incriminates him, but also kind of doesn't. But Judy and Nick end up tripping the alarm, and they only just barely manage to get out of there. And by the end of it, the mayor ends up getting arrested. So the next day, Assistant Mayor Bellwether becomes full-on Mayor Bellwether, and she has a press conference with the chief and with Judy. And Judy ends up putting her foot in her mouth and insinuates that all the animals that were turning were predators, and that they don't know what's causing it, which, of course, the media then twists into saying, oh my God, all predators are dangerous. And this causes massive amounts of civil unrest. And most tragically, it causes Nick no longer to trust Judy, because he was literally about to apply to become her partner on the police force. But then when he hears what she's saying in tandem with seeing the animals with muzzles on them, he's like, no, you're not at all who I thought you were. And he even points out that she had the fox repellent on her, and he even like tries to goad her into pulling it on him as a way of saying, yeah, you'd never fully trusted me, and you just proved that. Virginia says, it took me a minute. Jaguar Guy is Mr. Manchez. Thank you. So what did you think about that scene of Judy basically unintentionally starting civil unrest?
It definitely shows it's definitely happened in the real world, as we've all experienced, and it can be taken. All it takes is being influenced by the wrong people.
Exactly.
Such a impact on the rest of the world, especially with media nowadays. I could post something on Facebook, and the right person sees it. It could be all over the world. And then I look like as a social media star, but it could be something negative about a certain group.
Exactly. And like I said, it was things like this that I feel like people were going crazy about back in 2016 in context with, like I said, this was when the peaceful protests by certain three-letter organization, that's when that was really starting to kick off, even if, yeah, the organization itself started in 2014, 2015. Now, I think the way that they handled it in this particular movie was very tasteful. I do think that if Zootopia was made by 2023 Disney, they would have been a little bit more heavy-handed with the political messaging. What do you think?
Yes and no. Disney can definitely be subtle with their hints towards like social happenings in the world, because like basically since 2000, any of their movies you can see some sort of political or social happening.
Right.
And some of it is obviously very blatant, while other is very subtle, and it takes you a few times watching it to understand what point they're trying to get through.
Okay, fair enough.
And it's kind of like with the newest one, Turning Red, that created such a big uproar with like talking about everyday women cycles and being like, here's pads and stuff, for anyone who hasn't seen Turning Red.
Of course.
It's just like a mom-daughter type movie, and like the daughter starting into womanhood, so to put it. But that's a different topic for another day.
Yeah, we'll talk about all of that when I do eventually talk about that movie. But again, focusing it back to here, I said it in the beginning. The message is there. But as far as what I was expecting, it was not nearly as in my face as I was expecting it to be. And I think because of that, it made me respect the movie a lot better. But again, they did, do a lot of things that are very reminiscent of real world. Like, for example, Gazelle, who, by the way, is voiced by, I believe, Shakira, giving a press conference basically saying, I don't like all of this division in Zootopia. This isn't the Zootopia I know. And, basically celebrities, whether genuine and heartfelt or just a cry for attention, trying to call for peace. Which, again, I'm not going to say which one of those Gazelle was, but that both cases are true. And in the midst of all of this, Judy ends up resigning from the police department because she, in essence, did exactly the opposite of what she wanted to do. A police officer's job is to protect and serve, and here she is causing complete chaos within Zootopia and prejudice against predators. There's outright protests going on. And in the midst of this, she resigns and goes back to Bunny Burrow. And she starts working on the farm with her parents. And of course, her parents, they feel bad for her because by now they've realized they were wrong to shelter her from her dreams. And along comes Gideon Gray, her former bully, who is now just a simple working man who works at a bakery. And he has the courage to apologize to Judy for the way that he acted when he was younger. And it's here, as Judy watches some of her younger siblings and such play in the carrot patch, that she notices a certain flower growing along that's called a night howler. Now, initially, night howlers were mentioned earlier in the movie as something that Mr. Otterton was warning people against. Beware of the night howlers. At first, they thought this was wolves. But then Judy realized, oh no, these flowers that if you get too close to them will make you go crazy, they're called night howlers. So someone's been drugging these people. And so she heads back to Zootopia. And of course, yeah.
And something her parents point out, her uncle, her mom's brother, ate some of the night howlers. And so it doesn't only just affect predators, it can also affect prey.
Exactly. So, excuse me. So she heads back to Zootopia, and the first thing that she does is go and find Nick. And this is, of course, does involve apologizing, and Nick, of course, accepts her apology after taking a moment to tease her and, reverse Uno card the pen trick. The two of them make their way into the subway system after connecting up with Duke Weaselton, and come to find out that there are these rams in the old subway system that are taking the night howler flowers and converting it into a toxin that can be administered at range to whatever victim they choose. And it's here that they put the pieces together that Mr. Otterton went feral because someone sniped him through the car window. And same thing with Mr. Manchez. But real quick, I want to break in and say Virginia said something in the chat. He says, what is interesting about Gideon's apology is that the wording he uses is something a person who goes to therapy would learn about themselves. I didn't realize that at first, did you?
No.
But
I just
now,
thought
but
he just turned a leaf. Thank you, Virginia.
yeah. I mean, I took it simply at face value when I first was watching it as like just him realizing he was wrong, but I could 100% buy, him getting some sort of counseling, to help him, I guess, get put on the straight and narrow.
And like, because like most of the time, bullies are just people that have been bullied, and they have so much, instead of talking to someone, they just take it out on someone else,
Mm-hmm.
or their stuff like that. And
Yeah, so seeing Gideon turn around like he did was definitely good to see. And of course, if that is indeed how he turned around to go and get help, that just makes it even better. So with that, though, we have this big chase between Nick and Judy and the Rams as they're trying to keep the toxin, which they only just barely managed to take the gun and just enough to administer a dose. They also make mention that Judy's got blueberries in her truck, which just so happen to look the same as the toxin when it's in its capsule form. All the flowers get destroyed, of course, in a subway explosion, but they've got the gun. And as they're coming up out of the subway, they find themselves in the Natural History Museum, and they come across the bones of a girl that had gotten found at Luray Caverns. I'm kidding about that part. That's a little, if all I'm saying is, if you know, you know. But no, what actually happens is she comes across Mayor Bellwether, who has, I guess, so she's flanked by two different Rams that are wearing police gear. Are these actual police officers, or are these like her own private security?
I don't even think they're. I think they might be her own private security after the whole predator versus prey situation started. So
Okay.
all the predators might have been like removed off the police force.
I mean, we know that Clawhauser got sent down into the basement because, quote, people these days don't want a predator to be the first face they see when coming into the police department. So I think it is like her private security. So anyways, this is where it's revealed that, yeah, she is the villain, because how did she know that they were going to be there? And we get the monologue that basically explains why she's doing what she's doing. That's basically prey outnumbers predator 10-1, and yet prey has always been in fear of predators. Predators have always held some sort of power over prey, and she's basically going to upset the balance of the natural order. And, of course, gain her own power in the process.
So this could tie into what Virginia put in the chat with the Gideon getting help.
Uh-huh.
She never got help, so she's now becoming the bully.
That is
She would have been
true.
bullied.
That is true. So, again, going with that, during her monologue, Virginia says, I'm pretty sure private security, they aren't in regular uniform. Okay, fair enough. During her monologue, she shoots Nick with the poison gun, and Nick starts acting feral. Of course, he's trying to fight it, but he can't. And Nick starts stalking Judy, who by this point is injured. She got a bad cut on one of her legs. And then blood, and death. That is like the best line in the whole movie. But it turns out, in serious, that Nick was faking it. That they had swapped out one of the poisons for a blueberry. So literally all Nick got hit with was a blueberry. It did nothing to him. And they used
that scene made me think about the Olaf shorts where he does about each of like where they've created where he does like short real little recaps of the Disney movies, and he's talking about Elsa and Anna's story, and he's like, at least she has her parents. Her parents are dead. With like the whole acting thing that you just did.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I'm gonna pull that clip because that needs to be in there. I'm pulling that clip for use on the channel here. But so basically, Mayor Bellwether is caught red-handed, and they use the pen on her, recording her incriminating lines, and she's arrested. It's not exactly made clear, though, whether or not Mayor Lionheart is reinstated. Is he?
He is.
Oh, he is? Okay. And, of course, Judy is then rehired back onto the force. Nick graduates from police academy and partnered up, and the two of them go after a street racer who turns out to be Flash. And it was a
too fast
great ending. Yes.
So the way they're able to get Duke Weaselton to spill the beans is because of how Judy saved Mr. Big's daughter. We find out that was Mr. Big's daughter that she saved from the rolling donut.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I'm going to name my child after you, Judy. And you're going to be the child's godmother.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's pretty much the movie right there. And like I said, I aside from a bit of a misfire with the reveal of the twist villain, overall, I like this movie, and as I said earlier, I give it a 9 out of 10.
I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the Zootopia 2.
Honestly, so am I. I do hope it is a good movie, but at the same time, let's be honest, Disney since COVID has been absolutely cursed.
Opinions
they can't fail.
Will be opinions.
Yeah. So anyways, so that is pretty much our take on Zootopia. Highly recommend watching it, especially if you haven't seen it before. And that's pretty much it. So this now strikes off another list that you and I had put together, Tyler, of modern Disney movies that I hadn't seen. I know we kind of went out of order, but you know what? You take what you can get. So let me put this on my movie ranking here. Have you seen my movie ranking list recently?
No.
Okay, I've completely rearranged it. Now, instead of just a straight top to bottom list, it's in categories. So let me bring it on screen here. I'll walk you through it real quick. So first off, we have the great movies. So Godfather Part 1, It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street, etc., etc. Good movies, we got Big Lebowski, Star Trek 6, Spider-Man No Way Home, so on and so forth. A good portion of the Harry Potter movies are here too. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of them are there, with pretty much Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, all of them going up kind of in order, with Order of Phoenix being the best one. Then we have good movie but not my thing, meh movies, guilty pleasure movies, and then just total trash, with Rubber getting its own category. So this movie is going to go into the great movie area.
Wow.
And I'm going to put it... I'm going to put it at the bottom of Great Movie. So that's where I am going to put that. So, anything else you want to talk about as far as Zootopia before we get off of here?
I'm just excited to see how they're also gonna do if they do like start this like retheming of Bug's life. It's tough to be a bug to a Zootopia theme. It's supposed to have like what's his name? Clawhauser
Yeah.
as like the host of the whole thing, and you're gonna go through all the different biomes with Nick and Judy, and we're gonna meet some new friends and all that sort of thing. So that also might mean we will get a Judy and Nick meet and greet in Animal Kingdom.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, we already know also that we're getting a second one. So how that's going to happen is going to be interesting to see. So aside from that,
some sort of teaser trailer for it, but I'm not really for sure.
let me see.
Have you watched Inside Out yet?
Yes, I have seen Inside Out. I know that we're getting a sequel.
Yes, and they have introduced the 4 new emotions.
I only know one of them, and it's anxiety.
So we're getting anxiety. Depression, envy.
Ooh.
And I think it's French, but it's called ennui.
Yeah, not familiar with that one, but
so it's a lack of like the ability to do something, not really the ability to do something, but finding no motivation.
Okay.
Because of lack of interest.
Apathy. That's what that sounds like. But yeah, that definitely sounds interesting. So I guess with that, we're going to go ahead and shut it down for the night. So thank you, Tyler, for coming on here with me. And for everyone watching, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will see you guys later.